A man in a hotel lobby turns to go to the front desk, but he accidentally runs into a woman beside him and his elbow bumps into her breast. They are both quite startled. The man turns to her and says, "Ma'am, if your heart is soft as your breast, I know you will forgive me." She replies, "If your penis is as hard as your elbow, I'm in room 436. One weekend, a husband is in the bathroom shaving when the local kid Bubba he hired to mow his lawn comes in to pee. The husband slyly looks over and is shocked at how immensely endowed Bubba is. He can't help himself and asks Bubba what his secret is. "Well," says Bubba, "every night before I climb into bed with a girl, I whack my penis on the bedpost 3 times. It works, and it sure impresses the girls." The husband was excited at this easy suggestion and decided to try it that very night. So before climbing into bed with his wife, he took out his penis and whacked it 3 times on the bedpost. His wife, half asleep, said, "Bubba, is that you?" A man joins a soccer team and his new teammates inform him, "At your first team dinner as the new guy, you will have to give us a talk about sex." The evening arrives and he gives a detailed, humorous account of his sex life. When he got home, his wife asked how the evening went and not wanting to lie, but also not wanting to explain exactly what happened, he said, "Oh, I had to make a talk about yachting." His wife thought this a little peculiar but said nothing more and went to sleep. The next day she bumped into one of his new teammates at the supermarket and asked, "I heard my husband had to make a speech last night. How did it go?" His mate said smiling, "Oh, it was excellent. Your husband is clearly very experienced." The wife looked confused and replied to his mate, "Strange, he has only done it twice and the second time he was sick." A man saw a lady with big breasts. He asked, "Excuse me, can I bite your breasts for $1,000? She agrees, so they go to a secluded corner. She opens her blouse and the man puts his face in her breasts for 10 minutes. Eventually the lady asks, "Aren't you gonna bite them?" He replies, "No, it's too expensive." A guy and his date are parked out in the country away from town when they start kissing and fondling each other. Just then, the girl stops and sits up. "What's the matter?" asks the guy. She replies, "I really should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm actually a prostitute and I charge $100 for sex." The man thinks about it for a few seconds, but then reluctantly gets out a $100 bill, pays her, and they have sex. After a cigarette, he just sits in the driver's seat looking out the window. "Why aren't we going anywhere?" asks the girl. "Well, I should have mentioned this before," replies the man, "but I'm actually a taxi driver and the fare back to town is $50. "Daddy, where did I come from?" 7-year-old Rachel asks. It is a moment for which her parents have carefully prepared. They take her into the living room, get out several other books, and explain all they think she should know about sexual attraction, affection, love, and reproduction. Then they both sit back and smile contentedly. "Does that answer your question?" the mom asks. "Not really," the little girl says. "Judy said she came from Detroit. I want to know where I came from." A guy and his wife are sitting and watching a boxing match on television. The husband sighs and complains, "This is disappointing. It only lasted for 30 seconds. "Good," replied his wife. "Now you know how I always feel." A man boards a plane with 6 kids. After they get settled in their seats, a woman sitting across the aisle leans over to him and asks, "Are all of those kids yours?" He replies, "No. I work for a condom company. These are customer complaints." On hearing that her elderly grandfather has just passed away, Katie goes straight to her grandparents' house to visit her 95-year-old grandmother and comfort her. When she asks how her grandfather has died, her grandmother replies, "He had a heart attack while we were making love on Sunday morning." Horrified, Katie tells her grandmother that 2 people nearly 100 years old having sex will surely be asking for trouble. "Oh no, my dear. Many years ago, realizing our advanced age, we figured out the best time to do it was when the church bells would start to ring. It was just the right rhythm. It was nice, slow, and even. Nothing too strenuous, simply in on the ding and out on the dong." She pauses, wipes away a tear and then continues, "And if that damned ice cream truck hadn't come along, he'd still be alive today." A lawyer married a woman who had previously divorced 10 husbands. On their wedding night, she told her new husband, "Please be gentle, I'm still a virgin." What? Said the puzzled groom. How can that be if you've been married 10 times? Well, husband number 1 was a sales representative. He kept telling me how great it was going to be. Husband number 2 was in software services. He was never really sure how it was supposed to function, but he said he'd look into it and get back to me. Husband number 3 was from field services. He said everything checked out diagnostically, but he just couldn't get the system up. Husband number 4 was in telemarketing. Even though he knew he had the order, he didn't know when he would be able to deliver. Husband number 5 was an engineer. He understood the basic process, but wanted 3 years to research, implement, and design a new state-of-the-art method. Husband number 6 was from finance and administration. He thought he knew how, but he wasn't sure whether it was his job or not. Husband number 7 was in marketing. Although he had a nice product, he was never sure how to position it. Husband number 8 was a psychologist. All he ever did was talk about it. Husband number 9 was a gynecologist. All he did was look at it. Husband number 10 was a stamp collector. All he ever did was, God, I miss him. But now that I've married you, I'm really excited. Good, said the new husband, but why? You're a lawyer. This time I know I'm going to get screwed. I was sitting on my own in a restaurant when I saw a beautiful woman at another table. I sent her a bottle of the most expensive wine on the menu. She sent me a note. I will not touch a drop of this wine unless you can assure me that you have 7 inches in your pocket. I wrote back, give me the wine. As gorgeous as you are, I'm not cutting off 3 inches for anyone. A gynecologist notices that a new patient is nervous. While putting on the latex gloves, he asks her if she knows how they make latex gloves. The patient says no. The doctor says there is a plant in Mexico full of latex that people of various hand sizes dip their hands into and let them dry. She does not crack a smile, but later she laughs. The doctor says, what's so funny? She says, I'm imagining how they make condoms. Beer bottle, you break me, you get 1 year of bad luck. Mirror, you kidding me? You break me, then y'all get 7 years of bad luck. Condom, ha ha ha. Condom walks off laughing. A guy and girl had sex poem competition. Guy, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 5 is 9. I can put mine in yours, but you can't put yours in mine. Girl, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 5 is 9. I know the length of yours, but you won't know the depth of mine. A man gets on a bus and ends up sitting next to a very attractive nun. Enamored with her, he asks if he can have sex with her. Naturally, she says no and gets off the bus. The man goes to the bus driver and asks him if he knows of a way for him to have sex with the nun. Well, says the bus driver, every night at 8 o'clock, she goes to the cemetery to pray. If you dress up as God, I'm sure you could convince her to have sex with you. The man decides to try it and dresses up in his best God costume. At 8, he sees the nun and appears before her. Oh, God, she exclaims. Take me with you. The man tells the nun that she must first have sex with him to prove her loyalty. The nun says yes, but tells him she prefers anal sex. Before you know it, they're getting down to it, having nasty, grunty, loud sex. After it's over, the man pulls off his God disguise. Ha, ha, he says, I'm the man from the bus. Ha, ha, says the nun, removing her costume, I'm the bus driver. 3 brothers are traveling along a road, and their car dies. They all get out of the car and start walking to a barn that's a little ways away. When they get there, the farmer comes out of the barn and offers them a room for 1 night. He says to the first one, you can sleep with the pigs, the second guy, you can sleep with the cows, and the third guy, I like the cut of your jib. You can sleep with my 18 daughters. The next morning, he asks everyone how they slept. The first man said, I slept like a pig. The second man said, I slept like a cow. The third guy said, I slept like a rabbit. I jumped from hole to hole to hole. A married man was having an affair with his secretary. One day, their passions overcame them in the office and they took off for her house. Exhausted from the afternoon's activities, they fell asleep and awoke at around 8 p.m. as the man threw on his clothes. He told the woman to take his shoes outside and rub them through the grass and dirt. Confused, she nonetheless complied and he slipped into his shoes and drove home. Where have you been? Demanded his wife when he entered the house. Darling, replied the man, I can't lie to you. I've been having an affair with my secretary. I fell asleep in her bed and didn't wake up until 8 o'clock. The wife glanced down at his shoes and said, "You liar. You've been playing golf." The bell rang for school to start and John walked in late. Mr. Clark asked, "John, why are you late?" He replied, "I was on Cherry Hill." Then he sat down. 10 minutes later, Nathan walked in late and Mr. Clark repeated, "Why are you late?" Nathan answered, "I was on top of Cherry Hill." 5 minutes later, Kevin walked in late and Mr. Clark said to him, "Kevin, where have you been?" Kevin replied, "I was on Cherry Hill." 10 minutes later, a girl walked in the classroom and Mr. Clark asked, "Hi there, what's your name?" The girl replied, "Cherry Hill." A nun and a priest were crossing the Sahara Desert on a camel. On the third day out, the camel suddenly dropped dead without warning. After dusting themselves off, the nun and the priest surveyed their situation. After a long period of silence, the priest spoke. "Well, sister, this looks pretty grim." "I know, Father. In fact, I don't think it likely that we can survive more than a day or two." "I agree. Sister, since we are unlikely to make it out of here alive, would you do something for me?" "Anything, Father. I have never seen a woman's breasts and I was wondering if I might see yours." "Well, under the circumstances, I don't see that it would do any harm." The nun opened her habit and the priest enjoyed the sight of her shapely breasts, commenting frequently on their beauty. "Sister, would you mind if I touched them?" She consented and he fondled them for several minutes. "Father, could I ask something of you?" "Yes, sister. I have never seen a man's penis. Could I see yours?" "I suppose that would be okay," the priest replied, lifting his robe. "Oh, Father, may I touch it?" This time the priest consented, and after a few minutes of fondling, he was sporting a huge erection. "Sister, you know that if I insert my penis in the right place, it can give life. Is that true, Father?" "Yes, it is." "Sister, then why don't you stick it up that camel's ass and let's get the hell out of here?"